next abstract will be presented by Dr. Michael Wang from the MD Anderson Institute of Cancer Center in Houston. And this abstract was presented in part at ASCO 2022. The primary results from the phase 3 SHINE study of Ibrutinib in combination with Bendamustin and rituximab maintenance as first-line treatment for older patients with mantle-cell lymphoma. Thank you very much for submitting this data to EHA, and we're looking forward to hearing it. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of my colleagues, it is my great pleasure to present the primary results of the double-blind, placebo-controlled phase 3 SHINE clinical trial in mantle-cell lymphoma. I'm Michael Wang from the University of MD Anderson Cancer Center. Here are my disclosures. Mantle-cell lymphoma, as we know, is a rare but distinct subtype of B-cell malignancy. And the older patients with the newly diagnosed mantle-cell lymphoma are usually treated by chemoimmunotherapies, the most common one being Bendamustin and rituximab. Everybody knows that Bendamustin originated from Europe. The rituximab maintenance after BR was also proved to be effective to prolong failure-free survival or progression-free survival in 2 independent studies. Ibrutinib is the oral first-in-class BTK inhibitor that has transformed the care of relapsed mantle-cell lymphoma. And Ibrutinib is especially effective when we use it at the first relapse. The Ibrutinib plus Bendamustin rituximab was proved to be effective and safe in a phase 1b clinical trial. With all those rationale and background, we designed the SHINE clinical trial. In this trial, we enrolled previously untreated patients at the age of 65 or older. As you can see in the experimental arm in blue, we included the BR for 6 cycles with R maintenance, plus Ibrutinib until progression or tolerance. As shown in green, in the placebo arm, we included the BR for 6 cycles with R maintenance, plus placebo until progressive disease or intolerance. The primary endpoint of this phase 3 clinical trial was progression-free survival in the ITT population. The primary endpoint of this study, PFS, was met. In other words, our SHINE clinical trial is a positive study because it successfully met its primary endpoint. Our trial showed that the Ibrutinib with the BR plus R maintenance showed a significant progression-free survival improvement. As you can see, the median PFS was 80.6 months in the experimental arm versus 52.9 months in the placebo arm. The hazard ratio was 0.75, and those are statistically significant. The 2 curves separated early because the benefit was separated early, clearly, and the benefit remained durable throughout the 7-year follow-up period of time. If we express all those times PFS instead of months into years, with a median follow-up of 7 years, the median PFS was prolonged by a net of 2.3 years because it was 6.7 versus 4.4 years. This is a very significant 50% improvement compared with the placebo arm. The safety profile was consistent with the new profiles of Ibrutinib and Bendamustin rituximab. And here we show the common treatment adverse AEs, or TAEs, at 20% or higher. As you can see, the first-line neutropenia was the most common TAEs in either arms and accounted for around 50% in each arm. Rash and pneumonia was 10% higher in the Ibrutinib arm. Diarrhea and anemia was higher in the Ibrutinib arm. In conclusion, SHINE is the first phase 3 trial showing that Ibrutinib in combination with chemoimmunotherapy is a highly effective first-line therapy for older patients with mantle-cell lymphoma. The median PFS with the Ibrutinib arm was 6.7 years. This is the longest PFS arm ever published in this population. There is a statistically significant and clinically meaningful net 2.3-year advantage in terms of PFS, favoring the ibrutinib arm. This is substantially longer than the currently used chemoimmunotherapies, which is usually about 1.5 to 3.5 years. The safety profile was within expectation and was consistent with the new profiles of ibrutinib and bendamustine rituximab. In conclusion, the first-line therapy with ibrutinib in combination with bendamustine rituximab and our maintenance sets a new benchmark for patients with mantle-cell lymphoma who are at age of 65 or older. We thank all the patient and families, and we thank all the study teams in 183 sites around in 28 countries. And we thank you for coming to join us.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wang. Very exciting results, and as you say, really sets up a new standard for benchmark for treating these patients with such a poor prognosis. Are there any questions? Oh, 2 questions. Great. Oh, no.
Yes. Hi, Neil Osterwell from OBR Oncology. I remember, I think it was 9 years ago when you presented at ASH and how excited you were about the Ibrutinib, the initial Ibrutinib data. In fact, it was an infectious enthusiasm. Are there other BTK inhibitors that now coming along that you would look at in the same combination with bendamustine?
I totally recall that 9 years ago in San Diego at ASH, I presented the primary results of ibrutinib alone, and you were right. There was within 15 minutes of presentation, there were 3 standing ovations. But now I'm glad to present the phase 3 clinical trial. This is kind of from phase 1, phase 2, in the phase 3, completing the life cycle of this drug. Yes, there are other BTK inhibitors. Now we know there are 3 kinds of BTK inhibitors. In the first category is the covalent irreversible BTK inhibitors such as ibrutinib, acalabrutinib, zanubrutinib, orelabrutinib, and a few others. The second is the reversible BTK inhibitors that is non-covalently binds to BTK, such as pirtobrutinib, tenobrutinib. So this pirtobrutinib has already been shown to be effective in preliminary results, and I'm sure this drug will coming along just fine. The third category is the newest BTK degrader. The degraders are also exciting because it will just degrade the target, right? So of course, you know, what's going to be the side effect? How effective it will be? Will it work after the previous 2 categories, resistant BTK inhibitors? Those are very, very interesting. But I think you really meant, within the covalent irreversible BTK inhibitors, how ibrutinib compare with the other 2. There's no head-to-head comparisons in mantle-cell lymphoma with the ibrutinib versus any other FDA-approved agents. But there was a comparison with ibrutinib with zanubrutinib in Waldenstrom's in the phase 3 head-to-head study. And there's also another study in CLL compared with ibrutinib with the acalabrutinib. But in all those trials, the efficacies are similar, but the toxicities differ. And some of the toxicities, like headache, would be higher in the acalabrutinib arm, and in zanubrutinib, there were more neutropenia. So, but you know, atrial fibrillation was higher in the ibrutinib. So there's efficacies, to my opinion, after spending 10 years on BTK inhibitors, they are similar. But the toxicities, we have to know them well and individualize the therapy to each patient according to their comorbidities and their profile, their preference.
Great, thanks.
Yes.
Great, thank you very much. I think in the interest of time, I'm going to the next speaker, but it's very exciting, and thank you.